I think, yeah, we're at a point where I think that is going to be very close. So it's going to be competition for us. And is it going to be to a point where it's literally like, yeah, there's no difference. I can't tell the difference. And if it gets to a point where the AI can do equally what Lewis Parker can do with all of my samplers and techniques I've learned and human emotion and understanding, if the machine can get to that same place without any intervention or without any prompts,
doesn't it?
There's going to be a point, if it can, there will be a point where it will be pointless for us to be doing what we're doing. And when we have achieved that, what is next for us? What is, if we achieve a machine that can basically do all of our functions and everything we do better than us? Where are we going with that?
Welcome back to another episode of the Heresy Podcast. My name is Dimitar, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Lewis Parker. Lewis is one of the true veterans of the British hip-hop scene. He's an incredibly talented producer and a deeply respected MC whose career stretches all the way back to the mid-90s. On today's show, Lewis and I talk about his journey through hip-hop, how he got started, who and what inspired him and shaped his style. We talk about his move to the US and his return to the UK. Lewis shares his thoughts on grime and drill, and we even touch upon artificial intelligence, what Lewis's thoughts on AI are, and how it is likely to shape the future of music. It's an incredible conversation, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Without further ado, here's Lewis Parker. So, 2020, I moved to the UK. Big hip hop fan. I go to Virgin Records on Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah.
Do you remember it? I think it's closed down now.
Yeah, I do remember it. It was massive.
It was massive.
On the other side of the right side of the street. Yeah, it was massive.
And
they did have a hip hop section, and every now and then they did have because I was on Virgin, my records got on there.
Yeah.
See those times. And I even there's other sort of other people's record who were associated with me ended up managing to get onto the site, get through to HMV as well through association.
Yeah.
So it did work out in certain ways, but yeah, it was rare to see underground UK hip hop in a major record store ever.
Yeah, well, Virgin did have, to your point, they had like a dedicated hip hop section. They had a dedicated section for foreign/underground hip hop, and that's where
my CD was.
This is where your CD was.
That's amazing.
And again, like I moved to the UK in 2000. You know, lived in Hertfordshire. Every now and then, I would go on a trip to London. That's one of those trips. I walk in, and I'm looking for a hip hop CD. I'm at that part of the store. I don't have a clue what to buy, right? Because if you remember at the time, you couldn't really listen to the music, and the only way to kind of figure out whether something is going to be good or not is, or you can guess really, is the cover.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess back in the days I did buy a lot of even rap records just by whether I used to go to. I never really bought CDs like that, but I was used to like record. I'm always been a vinyl guy since I was a kid. And I remember going to the record stores, and you would know the ones, like there would be, the guys, people I'd know, Run DMC, whatever. I remember the first records I actually wanted was a Run DMC record, and then was a Cookie Crew album. Those were the first two actuals that I bought. I think it was like 87.
Wow.
As a kid, and I went down the shop and bought them, and then I just remember always going to the wherever we moved a lot, so I always was going to the record stores wherever he was. And I remember there was always titles that, a lot of titles you would hear through other people, or they might be on the radio, so if you listen to certain radio shows, you might catch certain stuff. They would put you onto certain things. Certain people you would know would play, would have stuff, but you could always go to the record shop, and there would be these covers of albums I would never hear anyone playing, or I don't know what the fuck, and it was like there was no, so there was one record that did actually let you listen to stuff, but yeah, I remember buying a lot of records, and finding out about artists just through sheer curiosity of the cover or what it said on the sticker or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is also what I loved about the 90s, actually, talking about the stickers, is that so many records that I loved and bought didn't even have a cover. They just had a sticker on the side of the record. So, and a lot of these records didn't have videos, and if they did, I didn't see it. They might have been on the music box in the States, but it was far and few. You might get, even though we did get the box over here in the 90s for a short while, and I remember a lot of dope videos, the Fat Joes, the Mike Geronimo's, and all of that stuff was coming on and on the box. So that that definitely helped to understand the culture and more. But that was one thing with being in England anyway. It was always kind of like you're always trying to understand the culture because it was coming from another place. Yeah. So half of the knowledge you would get would be these little sprinkles from here and there, and it would usually be like an older guy, that someone's older brother who was into it, like from the early 80s or some shit, who knows more, and he would drop some knowledge and give you some tips, and then someone would go to the States, you would know, and they might, or something like that. And it was always these little bits and bobs.
How did you get into it then? I always wondered.
It was actually I got into it I think off TV, to be honest. I think I saw a couple of things on TV, and I think it was something, some little skit they did. I can't remember exactly who, but they did some skit with a beatbox and
an MC
and an MC on TV. That kind of made me really want to get into it. And then I had cousins, Mark Springer, namely, who was really, really into hip hop from before me, and had a massive record collection. And when I used to go to his house, he had like the Ice-T poster with the Uzi and shit, and the Schoolie D and all of that on big posters and massive mad record. So I would just get spun out when I'd go to his, because I would get into it. I was getting into it like kind of on myself, but when we went round to his, he just sort of like would say, "Oh, listen to this, listen to that." So he definitely had an influence when I was young, a kid, in just making my awareness of hip hop. And then it was like older brothers. I remember my big brother was never into it. Like, I've got a bigger brother. He was more into rock. Like, he's actually a much better musician than me. Can play the drums, can play guitar.
This is something I always wondered, because your music is very, like, the hip hop that you do is very musical, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's just naturally me.
So did you grow up into a music family? Did you play a musical instrument?
I always messed around with instruments, and I had little lessons here and there. Never took things ever seriously. Like when I was a kid, playing music, it was just like, I remember having piano lessons and finding it very frustrating.
Yeah,
I remember having drum lessons, enjoying it, but never really taking it seriously. But my brother did have a drum kit in the house growing up, so I could play the drums for a good period when I was young. My brother had a drum kit and things like that, and my brother was much more, he's into rock music and things, so especially when he was young. So he played the guitar, played drums, he was in bands, but that shit never really kind of rubbed off on me. In fact, it kind of worked the opposite.
How so?
I was, when I was young, like first getting into hip hop, I thought all of this like kind of rock guitar stuff, I thought it was whack.
Okay.
All right. I even thought playing synthesizers was whack. And I didn't even associate. It's kind of strange how I've come completely full circle in life in this respect, in this regard, because I remember when I first got into hip hop production like that, it was always. And then certain things about hip hop production kind of re-bolstered these ideas. So I kind of was like, nah, synthesizers is whack. Trying to play the instruments on top of your beats is whack. All you want to do is find the illest records and chop them up or loop them up and make them tight, and then you got the best hip hop you got. And it's all about how you manipulate those samples and what you do with them. And it was all about, that was the thing. There's so much shit, because one thing I got from a lot of older guys was, it's all about digging in the crates for the original breaks, not just digging in the crates and finding something to sample, digging in the crates for the original pressed breaks from the 60s and the 70s of these records. Wow. You understand? So it's not like looking for some reissue. These were the diggers that I would like, cats like Mark B and shit like this. These were gems that were passed down. Like, you got to look for the original pressing, because the original pressing is going to be the best sounding one.
Right.
So there was actual reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Like, when you're taking from especially like a breakbeat record, that's been sampled by someone else into their sampler, re-recorded, processed again. And even if it's the whole, like the ultimate breaks and beats, they've been recorded off the record into some other format, reprocessed, mastered again. Like, think of all the degradation from the original form recording. So those recordings, if you're using breakbeat albums and, you know, loop albums and things like that, you're not getting the original recording. You're getting a lower version. So if you want to have the best quality and hit like sample for your hip hop song, you want to get the original pressing from the original version, because that's when they would have had the fattest lathes. They would have been using the fat shit from the 50s and 60s to master, no digital compressing. So all the you know, the reissues from the 80s and 90s, they all started to use digital processes to do your audio. So all of that shit counts. So when you're going back, so a lot of ideas I was having was like, yo, it's about understanding all of these aspects of the shit. Then it's about understanding how audio, like how sound works, the vibration around sound. How do you control that? How do you break that down and make it now yours so you can replay that? So all of these ideas have been like that was the foundation. And for since the 90s, I was like, yo, I just got to perfect these techniques of making something airtight when they're from multiple different sources.
So how old were you when you started? Because this is quite a complex task to do,
well,
right?
Well, at first it's just, you're just thinking about loops. Like, you're not thinking about any of that, but it's all of these things start coming into play. So when I'm meeting, at first I'm just looping records. So from when I'm 10, 11, I'm doing pause breaks. And I didn't get taught that by anyone. I just worked it out myself that, okay, if I find a piece on a record that sounds good, I can record it onto cassette, pause it, bring the record back, and then record again.
So you were doing it with cassettes?
And I would do that on a cassette. That's how I started doing it. And I would do that for 3 minutes on one, and then you would play the other cassette, and then you would put some other, like do a scratch on top. And if you had 2 cassette decks, you could actually do it again and put other stuff on top. You know, and this was, I didn't even have a 4-track. This was just on a hi-fi cassette deck.
Right.
He needed a good pause button. I was using my brother's one. He had a great one, pause button on his cassette deck. And that's how I first started making my first beats or beat ideas. Right. And I started rapping over them. So they were just for me. I wasn't doing them, you know, for anyone else, you know. They were just for me. Like, I liked hip-hop music. I was buying hip-hop records. I was listening to that. Then I was starting to try to sound like do raps like the records I was buying. Then I wanted to record my own raps over beats. I was like ideas. So I'm like, I can.
So which one came first, Lewis? Was it beat making and then recording
all at
your
the
own
same
rap,
time?
or was it I want to rap and I'm gonna do my own beats?
Yeah, kind of. It was more like that. So you're a kid, like you're 10, 11 years old, thinking, I want to do this rap. But I don't, you know, what am I going to rap over?
So you're like, okay,
I'm just going to find something to rap over. So first you might just try to find something on another hip hop record and loop that. Then you're like, oh, my mum's got a soul record. She had a Stax compilation with like Funky Penguin on there, you know, Isaac Hayshaft, had a bunch of like the Melting Pot, you know, MGs. I remember it had a bunch of different groups. I'm like, oh, I heard that. Like Big Daddy Kane used that on, you know. And I'm like, oh, this is so already from a kid, you're thinking, oh, these are where the breaks from. And then you're like, well, okay. And then the 90s really started, when the hip hop in the 90s started to hit for me, like the mid 90s, where I think it started to really fall into place for me was when I realized, okay, I can sample whatever sounds good.
Yeah.
It doesn't just have to be
a breakbeat,
like, or in that manner, or something obvious, like, okay, you know, because they used to just started to hear these random jazz loops and random bits and bobs in the 90s, which you weren't kind of hearing in the 80s before. It was
No.
more either funk records, soul records, or, you know. And I got to talk about my drum machine, because before I was sampling or even thinking about the sampling thing, I had a Yamaha DD10 drum machine.
How did you get these things? Because
My
again,
mum got me. It was a Christmas present, the drum machine. You know,
So
it was a you know, a cheap drum. It wasn't an amazing drum. The
and you're what? You're 10, 11 at
yeah,
the time?
Yamaha DD10. Like, you can check it out. It's a very basic drum machine. I think you can still get them now, like on eBay for like 30 quid or something like that, right? It's a real basic drum, like not a professional drum machine, a basic drum machine, right? But I remember being a kid, and before I was sampling, I was doing beats, like just programming drum beats. And I spent days programming just drum beats on my drum machine. And I remember having the synths, like keyboards, you know, like not proper, like keyboards, you know, and fucking around with them, like as a kid, like, you know, always trying to do some ideas. And then I remember thinking all of that shit was whack. Like,
the keyboards bits.
Yeah, the keyboards and drum machine,
and the drum machine as well.
So I thought all of that shit was whack. I was like, yo, I just want to make it's got to be sampled. That's what happened to me in the 90s. I was just like, it's got to be all like dope loops off of dope records, like, because that I was listening like Boot Camp, like what Evil D and Mr. Walt were doing. Definitely my main influences.
And so you're trying to emulate what the...
So I was definitely trying to emulate what I was hearing those guys doing, because I was like, I was listening to that album non-stop, Enter the Stage.
Yeah.
Non-stop. I can't front. So their production on top of other guys, like before that, for me it was Onyx. I went through a mad period of being a super duper Onyx fan. I had a ball. I actually used to get called when I used to go to Holland Park school. Used to get called Onyx in school because I had a ball head, and no one had they thought it was crazy at that time. So
right.
I was about 13, 14 with a ball head, and you just called me Onyx.
Wow.
So that was, you know. So yeah, I had a lot of different periods, but what I was trying to say is that I went through a whole period. I think the main period of me releasing music has been in this state of, I don't want to play music, especially at the start. I think it may have started to change towards the end of the 2010s. That's when you can hear it, like Glass Ceiling is when it's changed.
Right,
the idea started to change. But before that, I was kind of really against trying to play
anything.
Right. It was all about sampling and manipulate, breaking the sample down, make maybe like a DJ, like putting multiple pieces from a record together. You know, that would be some of my favorite beats. If I'd like get 3 different records that sound like a glove together, that you couldn't tell that didn't work together. But I stayed away from actually learning to play.
Who else was doing things at the time? Like, who else was creating music at the time?
What, in the UK?
Yeah, because I just
started... I got to say that, you know, there was a lot of people, you know, but the main person who let me in the door in terms of got me the first record deal, and then they got signed to, was Trevor Jackson, who was running Bite It Records, and he was he was called the Underdog at that period, and he was the producer for the Brotherhood, also Scientists of Sound, also Paulie Rhymes, a bunch of guys that came out through Bite It, and he had quite a prolific point at that mid period of the 90s in underground UK hip hop.
Yeah,
there's a few other labels that were doing similar things. Catch 22. I'm trying to think of the label they were on. Cold Sweat. Yeah, Cold Sweat. They had a bunch of stuff around that kind of time and a bit before. You had Liberty Grooves. But yeah, the scene was kind of very underground at that point. There was very few in the 90s. There were very few UK acts that managed to make any kind of mainstream impact, or the mainstream record labels gave any kind of interest or showed any kind of... and for me, I've called it for a long time, and I've said it. That was half of why I was talking about all this conspiracy. To me, what had happened was when hip hop first started or became big in the 80s, the industry over here were like, "Oh, this is great. Let's have a go." And they actually signed artists, Derek B, Cookie Crew, MC Merlin, Silver, but all of these guys had major labels behind them, There were MC Duke, they had big labels, big budgets, as equal to what American rappers were getting at that time. It did kind of work, and there's remnants of them, some of those names are still ringing bells now. That's where Moni Love came out of, that same scene, And to me, that was the peak of real UK hip hop.
So what is this, like?
That is mid 80s, 87, 88, 89, 90. And then 90, 91, the labels are like, I think it was gangster rap that also maybe the UK labels were like,
they didn't have any appetite for it.
We don't have appetite for this. We don't want a bunch of fuggy black males running around talking about fuck the government and whatever in the UK. I don't think they wanted that in the UK.
No. Well, do you think the US were more receptive to it, or do you think it was also met with some sort of opposition?
Well, I think in the 80s there was more. That is how Moni Love got in. That is how Hijack was signed with Ice-T and Rhyme Syndicate. Right? There were connections being made way before all of this stuff. Now it's a different era, and I'm like so happy that these guys, Central C, Gigs, and all of these guys are doing such major things. But you got to think of the actual timeline of UK hip hop. We were doing these major things back in the 80s. Then the 90s hit, and it wasn't like the talent wasn't here or the energy wasn't here in the UK to make it happen. It was just the labels were like, we don't really see how we want to market this or fits into our market plan at this specific time.
So does it boil down to lack of funding in that time then?
It falls down to the labels not wanting to get behind any UK hip hop groups at that time and not seeing it as a viable music platform. So if you're doing hip hop from the UK, they wanted you to do something more left field. They wanted you to become Portishead, Massive Attack. They wanted you to become what they wanted how they tried to promote.
I was going to ask you.
So how they wanted, because you see Masquerades and Silhouettes, that was more the label pushing for this kind of imagery, this kind of idea, even though I'm not, because I was already doing this kind of stuff. That's why they wanted to mess with me, because they saw that, it's kind of left field, it's kind of different. It's not like, gangs in the street and nigga this or whatever, we can deal with this, right?
So that
is why I think I managed to get through a little bit, but they didn't actually let me through. They didn't really, Virgin didn't want to actually sign me. So it was because it came through Massive Attack, and Massive Attack had a special deal, and through their label Melancholic, it was kind of like, you have to put out what we want to put out on our label.
So how much of Masquerades and Silhouettes is Melancholic saying, look, you need to kind of adopt this trip hoppy sound versus this being new?
It's definitely, that's kind of, I draw the line at when my creativity gets stepped on. And I just kind of felt like, is that the idea I had for Masquerades was initially longer. It was meant to be a longer album.
Yeah, it's fairly short, right? It's like 30.
So I wanted to add a good few more tracks to the album. They didn't really want that.
Why is that?
I don't know,
That's strange.
And they just didn't put the promotion behind the album. It's turned into a classic in its own right over time, and even at the time it was held highly.
Yeah.
But Virgin didn't see, I don't know, a commercial out for my actual music, even though they kind of was like, okay, it can be a cool undergroundy kind of thing. They like literally refused to get I actually multiple for both albums tried to get videos made, and they told me that I can get a student to make the video for free, and
And that's it.
Yeah, but they weren't going to invest the budget.
And then in the US, people were getting like thousands of dollars
to do videos and stuff. And I'm on a major label, and I'm like, "Where's the video for your album?"
How does it work? What's the relationship between you and the label? So you kind of sign. I know my lack of understanding for the music industry is going to be, very obvious here. So I apologize. But how does it work? They sign you, and then what do you get in return? I would expect exposure,
well, you get,
budget,
yeah, exactly. So
distribution.
I think when you're especially when you're young and broke, like you see, multiple figures on a paper, you're like, yeah, let's go, and that's it. But in reality, that's all got to be paid back off of the sales. So it means basically you're in debt. You won't get any money till that's really recouped, and that month, and like what it all basically comes out of a bigger pot. So a lot of the times people are getting cars here, eating fancy restaurants, right. Doing this, and it's not like it's all free. It's all getting marked down against you as on your thing.
Do you know about that? Do they tell you, or you're like?
I realized, especially the second time round, I kind of got stung for different reasons from the person who helped me get signed to Melancholic. It was, there's always people trying to put money in their own pockets through someone else's advancement instead of just helping, and a lot of the times people don't put their initial intent on the table. So especially for me, when I was coming in as the naive artist, I definitely got a little bit, not all the way fucked, but a little bit, fucked, in terms of the deal, in terms of certain deals and what money went to who in what sense. But it's all good, I had a great experience. I'm still managing. I think it set me up that I'm still managing to put music out. Like how many years later? And still people are interested enough to buy my music. And you asked me onto a podcast. So it can't be all the way bad.
No, certainly. And I you said it yourself, Masquerades and Silhouette has become like an absolute iconic album.
Yeah, in its own right?
Yeah, totally. I started telling you the story of, for me, discovering your music was through your second album, It's All Happening Now.
Yeah, which is, I'm actually working on, it's coming out again.
Ooh, okay.
So that's what I'm working on at the moment, actually. If you've been keeping up with me over the last 2 years, you'll see that we filled in the gap from Masquerades and All Happening Now, because it was the Ancient Series 2 to Ancient Series 3. So we've now put out Diamonds in the Sun's Eye. So now we've got that gap filled, which I never thought I would see that. So I want to give super shouts to my man Tajali at Boom Bap Relics, who initiated the whole thing. He kind of hounded me for about a year, in fact. And I didn't want to do it. I told him a ridiculous price to start, and we negotiated, and we got it, and we've worked out a deal. He's been in talks with the guys from the label EMI and Universal for the rights to use the projects, which it's amazing that all the stuff I was telling you, like how little they actually put to promote my music or do anything with my likeness or push the brand of Lewis Parker. But yet 30 years later, the guy come in to trying to re-release. They make him pay. So I don't want to say the money, but they make him pay so much money to be able to re-release the album. So it's still like they still will. They get more money from the project than I end up getting. Like that's how it works.
Fucked up and
it's
unfair
so
this industry is. Did you ever consider going? I guess at the time it's very difficult, but you see more artists trying to go completely independent now, right?
Yeah, I mean I'm kind of doing that. I mean I've been working with King Underground since 2010, and we've had a great stretch of putting out albums and singles and EPs, and that's definitely kept me alive and in people's sort of mind more than me not putting out music in the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, at the moment, I'm definitely trying to work out to get more music out and get some actual physical releases through my own label, Dusty Vinyl. Yeah, so I'm doing a few things for that. I think maybe the first one that's going to happen is either with my man Phoenix the Icefire, which I'm slowly working on a new album with him.
I don't know him.
I need to brush up on He's a younger rapper from the UK who's been doing his rounds, and I think he's dope.
So with this, one thing I wanted to ask you about Masquerades and Silhouettes was there's, and this is what I thought was very unique at the time. I had never heard a hip hop tune that has very visceral lyrics. You know, it almost feels like, you know, when I first played it, I thought, holy shit, this is like a movie. You know, you're kind of playing a CD, but you're like...
That's what I kind of wanted to do. I was always into, you know, I'm massive into Star Wars and that kind of...
This is what I wanted to ask you.
This kind of epic saga ideas and understanding. I've always been into just movie shows, bro, you know, so I like, I'll drift out. I'll go to, you know, watch a bunch of science, and I've done that since a kid, you know, watch, you know, hours of some kind of, you know, science fiction TV show, cartoon, whatever it is, you know, Centurions, all of those kind of, you know, all of those kind of things, bro. Like, from a kid, that I used to spend so much time. Like, if you saw my Star Wars collection when I was a kid, it was ridiculous. Like, I had stupid Star Wars stuff. Like,
it's so crazy that, you know, on one side you're collecting Star Wars figures and then you're making beats on the other. It's just like the craziest thing.
So it was like, you know, I remember as a kid I used to do mad setups. Like, you know, I remember I had this Hoff, which I got from this guy who used to come into the shop, and he was like, and then he sold me this whole Hoff battlefield that he made out of like you know, like paper, like when you do like wet paper, mache, like paper mache. And oh man, I used to do the setups on that. I had the AT-AT walkers, bro. I had at least 20 or 30 stormtroopers, man. I was going in, bro. I used to do the set, like, and spend ages.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense.
So making beats, it kind of was very similar. So it was like, okay, you find a piece of music that takes you somewhere.
Yeah.
You find a loop that is like this, you know, just you know, a lot of times it'll just be an intro with a song, or just a little piece in the middle of the song or something. And it's like, okay, so now you got to maximize on that. And for me, it all came down from these basic loop techniques, which I really did hear beat miners using very heavily. There were other producers that were doing these techniques, but for a young mind, hearing that, it was like really straightforward. It's like, okay, I just need a drum loop.
Yeah. So
I need a dope piece of music.
Yeah.
I'm going to filter this music down. I'm going to break it into two parts. I've got my high bit of music. I've got my low bit of music, which is now the bass. The high is you bring that in and out. You got your bass with the drums, which is the main bit. Now, if you add another little sound on top of that, it can be pretty much any little sound, little horn, little sprinkle, something in, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a basic dope beat for me back in the 90s. And all you had to do was find a little bit of good music to go around, and a good drum and a lot of the time back then it was this whole dun cat dun cat, or dun cats dun cats dun cat, a lot of half loops, a lot of half beats, right? Stuff that was like, it was either a loop or it was bum bum cat,
right,
or cat, right? And you just put those and you put them together, and that's your drums. You know, you might put a hi-hat over it or something like that, you know. So it was real basic, simple programming, just finding music that you liked. And it was more the technique and the idea for me that it was like, I think each generation has their different styles. Right. And to me, it was about style. And I think for me, why I stuck out when I first came out is because I understood the current style that was in fashion.
Yeah, but your style is also
boom, of that kind of hip hop boom bap at that time, where I felt a lot of people who was coming out from the UK in the 90s at that time were either more stuck in older school production,
right,
than actually what was hidden right that minute in 95. right?
But then your style is also like, I can totally see how it's deeply rooted in boom bap hip hop, but it's also very different, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think, again, going back to Masquerade and Silhouettes, it's become such an iconic album. It sounds very unique.
The difference was two things: the music I was finding, and the music I was choosing to mainly use, which came very apparent. Like, if you listen to my first record, B-Boy Antic, you can hear that, okay, he's got his style there. It's the same style, but there was still a bit of like the ROW, and there was more experiment. There was a bit more like, okay, if it sounded good, it wasn't less like it wasn't as concentrated. Where Masquerades and Silhouettes was a concentrated version of that idea and style for me at that time, where it was like, right, I'm going to do a themed album where song to song, they all sit together. It's not like a lot of albums where you put it on and you got one mood or one kind of style of a beat, and then the next song is just a completely different. I wanted an album that felt cohesive, which felt like, okay, this all fits together like a movie soundtrack. Yeah,
exactly. That's
right.
Like
how it feels when you listen to it, like themed, and even bringing back in, like and bringing that back in like a theme, where you have the theme for someone, and then it's reminiscent of that, and it's a slightly changed. I love that. I love those ideas, and I've always loved that. So I've always tried to express that through, and the Masquerades was the first, like, right, that's kind of what I was like, right, it's got to be themed, it's got to be like the records I was buying. And that was not about the hip hop records I was buying, like the records I was sampling, like the easy listenings and the soundtrack albums that I would fiend after and try to, and okay, so they got it like this, okay, so it's and I just like the idea of these albums, and that it's like a the album in itself is a movie, and it takes you on a journey away from the movie. So I'm very into soundtracks. I'm a very big soundtrack collector.
I can totally imagine you doing like a soundtrack for a big production. Like,
for me, it's like that's where I would like to end up at one point in my in life, if I can do that, where I'm actually just producing soundtracks for
well, I can totally see it again. Like Masquerade and Silhouette sounds like I don't know what the movie would be, but obviously there's Crusaders there's Jedis, there's all sorts of imagery, so you can totally see it being the soundtrack for like an epic movie.
That's kind of what it was in my head. It was, I was building like an epic movie style Star Wars, but not Star Wars, it's my world soundtrack, right?
What is the obsession? I wanted to ask you. So obviously you said you were a huge Star Wars fan, but then you
became Star Wars fan.
I kind of feel like there's more to it. I don't know whether it's like the resistance in the resistance in the movie. There's like the I guess the Brotherhood. I don't know, what is the obsession with the Jedi and the Force?
It was always the Jedi. It was Yoda's teachings that really inspired Yoda's and Obi-Wan's teachings that really inspired me from a kid, and things like Yoda saying that do or do not, there is no try.
Right.
So for me, that has always been my go back to saying.
Right.
Literally. So it's like, you don't try at something, you do it or you do not do it. Right. Yeah. For me, it's like it's certain teachings that came from that, understanding the forces and as an entity around us, as a field around us, that I do believe we live in a world where those things are actually tangible. We do have these extra sensory things. We can sense when someone is not feeling, or all of these things actually exist in our time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be fantasized, in the movies, but a lot of it is sort of very straightforward. So I've always took the teachings of a Jedi sort of like, as a kid, it made, I was never brought up. My mum didn't bring us up in a religious house, even though we're, from a Caribbean background. She had certain stuff that happened to her that she didn't like from the church, that she kind of didn't bring her kids up in this religious fashion where all my cousins, everyone else I knew did. They would go to church and stuff like that, but I never did. So something like Star Wars, I think when it came along, maybe it did have a kind of a little bit of a religious implication for me, because it's definitely rubbed off on me for the rest of up till now.
Yeah.
Even though Disney have messed it up and it's gone right off the radar with all of the nonsense they've done.
You're not a fan of The Mandalorian?
I'm not a fan of anything that Disney have done. I think the only
not even
thing
The Mandalorian, the first season.
the first season, it was okay, but no, I'm not even a fan of that stuff, bro.
Okay. Which is your favorite? Out of curiosity, which is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Okay.
Yeah. I think the best thing that they did was Rogue One, Disney.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For me, closest they've got to something that actually feels like proper Star Wars.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't actually feel like Star Wars. It feels like, I don't know, something else. It just doesn't, everything just, they always miss the mark. Like there'll be little bits and bobs that I find interesting, the same as in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Even in some of the other seasons, there's little bits that you might, as a nerd, that you might be like, oh, that's a little bit. It's all member berries. It's all this kind of stuff, rather than you've actually knocked it out the park.
Yeah,
You've actually made none of it feels like it. And that Mandalorian Grogu trailer that they've just dropped, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not a movie.
Yeah.
I've left comments all over the internet on them shit. Like, why would you release a movie called Mandalorian and Grogu? That's not even a Star Wars title. Like, how is that a movie title?
Yeah, they've lost their way a little bit, haven't they? Yeah.
So, but I don't think they can ever actually kill Star Wars, because I feel like it's such a cultural phenomena that happened back then that resonates regardless. So they're always gonna. It's the same as everything else. They're just trying to regrind it, retrope it up.
Yeah.
But that's the problem.
Make more money.
We're in at the moment.
Yeah.
In general, with everything, we just need to get back to originality and stop depending on nostalgia all the time.
Let me take you back to hip hop for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You did move to the US, and I don't know when that happened. So no, in fact,
end of 2003.
2003. Okay.
So from 2003, my sister actually she got a management deal with Violator, the same people who were managing 50 Cent.
Ooh. Okay.
My mum was doing 50 Cent's laundry. People won't even believe that, yeah? But my mum was, yeah?
Wow.
Doing his bits and bobs. She was up there. Because my sister was actually on Violator management with Mona Scott.
So is your sister based in the US?
No, she was for a long while. So basically she was there for a couple of years, about a year and a half. And it was getting more and more rough for me in England.
Yeah.
And my mum and sister and my little brother basically had kind of vacated. They was in New York, in his apartment in New York. And she was on Violator going, seeing 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Fucking, what's in, like Missy Elliott and all of them.
Yeah.
So she all was knowing him. But it never, she was there for a while, and it nearly blew up. She nearly got a major deal, and it just never happened. And then it just sort of, things like disintegrated, like a lot of artists, and it happens to a lot of people in the industry. Like you would think, like you'd be like, oh wow, you're doing this, and it something never quite manifests, and then that deal or whatever, that thing doesn't happen, and it never. So she was there. She was doing it for about 5-6 years with Violator. So in that time, and for me it was like end of 2003, I had not having a good time. My deal had finished with Virgin Records in the UK. They weren't going to sign me.
So that's literally at the tail end of It's All Happening Now.
Yeah, that was the tail end.
Deal's
After All Happening Now, they pretty much,
Man, but that was such a
good
album.
They didn't like that album.
What?
One bit, yeah. Not one bit. They were not into it, not one bit. I'll tell you a story about that actually. Not actually with the label, but with the publisher. And it's quite a telling story, because I went to get publishing for All Happening Now with the same publisher who published Rodney's Roots, Second Brand New
Yeah. It's a great fucking album.
Yeah, great album.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing he told me was that they had based a lot of the marketing campaign that they did for that album on Masquerades and Silhouettes.
Okay.
And if you think about it, you can kind of see it. But it's a kind of different style, but in a lot of times it's they wanted to do a more of a left field approach than even what Masquerades and Silhouettes was, and get that, and they did. They nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He nailed it with that in terms of a successful project.
Yeah.
Right. They nailed it, and they saw that. He told me in this meeting that he saw the way for the marketing through Masquerades and Silhouettes,
awesome.
basically.
Yeah.
And if I had come with him with an album that was more like Masquerades or more like what Roots was doing at this point, he would have given me a publishing deal. But all happening now was too rap, he told me. It was too hip. It's too rap. That's actually the words the guy used. I can't remember the fella's name. But it's a big publishing. It was a big publishing house.
Is this why you decided, like, okay, I've had enough? Like,
And well, there are a lot of reasons. It's just sort of like, well, for me, it was just another reason and another to be like, yeah, the industry definitely do not like the kind of music I think I want to make at that period, or the kind of ideas that I have is sort of not, this stuff is not being embraced. And then, you know, all you had to do at that point was look at the state of affairs of modern rap music that was now starting. It wasn't underground anymore. This was a mainstream genre when we're now in 2002, 2003. And it was all the jiggy, super jiggy, you know, Neptune stuff and all of this kind of stuff that's killing the radios. And it's like, cool, you know, I wasn't, you know, but it's like, this isn't the kind of rap that I want to make.
Yeah.
You know, so what do you do? And even when I went to the States, that was actually kind of hard to keep balance for a good while.
In what way?
A lot of all the people I met, especially the beat makers, the guys I got, like the first guy I got cool with in Queens. I moved. I was in Queens.
Yeah.
The apartment where my sister had was in Woodside, Queens, Sunnyside, in fact.
Right.
And I started hooking up with my man Sham Boogie, and he would, you know, showing me around Queens, showing me around New York in general, introducing me to his crew. And that kind of was really my set off in a lot of ways in New York City, even though I was you know, because I was just like, right, I'm brand new to the city. I got to go out. I got to meet people. I got to just network. It's not like people don't know who the fuck Lewis Park. I got comfortable being hit because after it's like the scene, after a while at that point, I'm like, everyone knows me in the scene. I can go to any, you know, place in doing hip hop in London. I'm going to be known. I'm going to be able to get stuff that all of that is dead now. You know,
that sounds so daunting, man.
It did, at that point, it actually did feel daunting because I'm like, all right, people don't, you know, the hip hop scene over here don't give a fuck about Lewis Parker. I'm absolutely no one, right? So it's kind of like starting all over again, which was kind of cool in a certain way because it's kind of like, all right, I can use all of the knowledge that I've gained.
Yeah.
I'm not like 15 anymore coming out, you know. I'm like, you know,
but you still
in my young 20s, and I've got my techniques, I've got my ideas. I'm already a bad boy on the SP at that point. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, where in the UK for a long period, like throughout the night, I felt like a learner, and the guys I was next to, I felt like I was under them in terms of in terms of understanding skill and understanding the craft and all of that shit. So I was always feeling like I'm learning when I'm around, you know, all the older producers I would know, from Mark B to El Dolo to even Trevor Jackson.
Yeah.
At that, you know, and I would get serious gems from all of the guys. You know, I'm not even named everyone, but all of the guys that I, you know, would be like, okay, and I remember, okay, you know, and they might tell you about a break beat, or tell you, or just give you a little gem about chopping, or try that, or you know, a little saying, right? Chop your drums like that, or do and. All right. There was also I got to also say one story which is very prevalent from around them times, which kind of changed my whole beat making technique. This was my man Ben Grimm, who was one of the first guys I met who was using the SP, and that was in about '97. Yeah, this was this was so I met him around the time I was finishing off Masquerades. It's when we started to hang out with him. He had just come back from living in New York for a couple of years, and what he was used to do was take like English breaks, like dig for English break records, take them to the States, sell them to beat makers in the States for like mad money. Like,
nice
you
little
know,
business
like finding shit like UK Top of the Pops records with drum breaks that you can find for £1, take them over there, sell them to some guy for $100 or something. You know, it's those kind of flips. And he was in A1 Records. He met Lord Finesse. He had some UK records.
Yeah.
He played Lord Finesse some of the records. Ended up getting cool enough for Lord Finesse to invite him back to his house.
Wow.
Right? My man sold him the records, Lord Finesse, the breaks that he used on Jewelz, the drum break and the music.
From the vinyls that he...
Yeah, Ben Grimm sold him those records, right? That he used on the last jam on OC's album, Jewelz. So the drums and the music was off of the records that Ben Grimm sold him. That same time, Finesse broke down the techniques of how he chops up drums with the air. There's a special, we used to call it the trick.
The trick.
That's what we used to call it. Shit was secret. It still is secret, right?
But you now know the secret, right?
Yeah. But it's like, I know the secret, yeah. But it was this whole shit of maintaining the air when you chop up drums.
Right.
Lord Finesse has broken it down. You know, I think even I saw him break it down on a video he did, like a seminar. You know, so it's out there, and I've shown many a producer this technique over the years. Many guys have improved their drum technique. Yeah. And I actually give lessons now to this day. I got a student in Korea.
Wow. So did you see?
But this lesson, he got it. He got it from Lord Finesse. He came back to the UK. This was just before I had to change one song on the album because of sample clearance, which was Casa Forte. Didn't make the final album. I had to change it to 1,000 Fragments. If you listen to 1,000 Fragments, drums versus all of the other drums on the album, there's a massive difference in technique. Someone who's not maybe savvy to maybe beat making might not first pull it out, but if you know, I'm gonna just give it. I'm gonna get, but yeah, just listen to it, right? And I'm gonna think about how those drums sound. Those drums sound like an actual drum loop, like a drum beat from a drummer, like chopped up, rather than individual drum hits. Yeah, just taken and just played.
And that's done with the secret.
Yeah, so all of the other drums I had just did in a very random way, like taking a kick here, a snare here, a hi-hat from here, and I would make my own drum kits and then just, play a drum pattern. That's how all of those other beats, even though, I would, if you've got an ear for shit, you start doing shit naturally yourself. So even... Because that's what I'm saying. Like even the techniques, my techniques, like if you break them down, I've been kind of doing it in my own way for a long time. But the techniques that would pass down to me that came from Finesse was very specific.
That's such a crazy story, man. I never thought you would say that.
It was very specific. The technique was very specific. So from ever since that time, I've thought about the technique in a very specific way, and I've changed the technique. I've improved the technique, and I've now mastered the technique to a new level.
This is some Jedi shit right here,
right?
Yeah.
And added layers on top of the same technique. Even though I feel like other people have mastered it or got their own version of the technique, for me, it's sort of like, a lot of the same technique I learned back in 97. And for me, it's like when you listen just on that record, you listen to 1,000 Fragments versus all of the other records, and the drums sound different. The drums sound more rugged on 1,000 Fragments.
I never thought about the drums.
That is because, I'm using
It is my favorite
technique.
song from the album, by the way.
Yeah, it's my favorite song on the album too.
Oh, amazing. But I never thought, I never gave it any thought as to why. It's just,
And it was the last song. All the other songs were recorded in a more expensive studio, in fact, and a different, like before. So that, and because of sample clearance, so several months later after the album's done, after sample clearance, they said, no, you can't use this song of Cassaforte. You're going to have to pull that song. Maybe you can put something else on there.
Yeah.
I go into a cheaper studio, but I'm already, that's what I'm saying. It's like my techniques were already going ahead. I'm like, I'm already doing better shit than I did for the album.
Yeah.
Like several months later.
Yeah.
So that was 1,000 Fragments to me is superior in terms of production technique and chopping up and from the other stuff I was doing on the album.
Yeah, so how does this translate to the move to the US then? Now it kind of seems like you have amassed an awful lot of knowledge, you have improved it. Are you now feeling that you're teaching them shit versus...
Yeah.
So like...
But you always have to be humble. People don't ever like someone who thinks they're a big head.
Of course.
Right?
But how?
So for me, it's always like I've always been about mastering these techniques of drum chopping, sample chopping, maintaining the air, making something fluid, right? Making it yours, like breaking it down and replaying it. Like it's the most straightforward thing it sounds like, and everyone and their mama now is chopping up drums and chopping up loops in a sampler of sorts.
Yeah.
But these techniques get lost in the wind. People don't implement these kind of understandings. So trying to actually make a drum yours. So what do you do, like, to make it so you can play all of the a drum that you sample from a break in your own pattern and still have the fluidity, natural acoustics, not have it feel static and stuttery and cut off. Right?
Yeah.
All of these variables that come into when you start trying to chop up hits from a pre-recorded, especially a drum beat. There's lots of variables that go into it.
Yeah, I always thought that you actually programmed it versus using chop up drum samples from various places.
So now...
Yeah. But even back then I thought it was an MPC play. I didn't realize.
It's various things. Like my earliest records were loops. Like
I'm even more impressed, put it this way.
B-Boy Antics is loops. From Masquerades and Silhouettes, that was why all those... Masquerades and Silhouettes, like, was me trying to step up too quickly. Where for me, if I should have stayed in the technique that I was doing more like on the Rise record.
Right.
I think Rise was a real, I think at the top of my production game in the 90s in a way. Like that's the song Rise. That was one of the best productions I did. And I was just doing it just off of, this is how I felt. And it was more loop-based production. When I started messing with Trevor Jackson, the underdog, he kept on saying, you can't just be looping drums and doing that. You got to be chopping up drums. You got to chop up drums. And it was this whole, you got to. So without having the right technique, I just instantly went home onto the sampler and started to try to take kicks and hi-hats and snares. And I made the Masquerades and Silhouettes album like that. And I didn't think about it. I was just, it sounds good. Some of it I feel like I worked like the drums on Eyes of Dreams. I think I got them pretty good without understanding the technique, just naturally just going in on it. But from when I understood the technique or was thinking about the technique in that way, everything just started to become sonically more gelled together.
Yeah.
And it was from that point that I was like, okay, I got to perfect this technique. So not that's for me. A lot of the times it's like it's not you're not just making music. You're trying to perfect the technique.
Right.
So a lot of the time, like through All Happening Now, was me trying to perfect the technique rather than just really concentrating on making songs.
Yeah, yeah.
And finishing songs.
Yeah.
Where Masquerades and Silhouettes was a lot more just like, we go into the studio, we've got, these are the songs, I'm going to go and finish the songs, do a great mix.
Yeah.
Like All Happening Now was just, right, I'm in my own studio.
Yeah.
Which was one of the things that I wanted to change because I'd spent all of my budget money on going to expensive studios for the first album. So the second album, I was like, I'm going to spend the money to buy my own equipment, record in my own space, set up my own studio.
Yeah.
But that caused you other headaches because then you don't have these same kind of deadlines and timelines as to be right. You've only got a week. You've got to get this finished.
Do you think you work better under that type of pressure?
I don't know better, but you get it finished.
Right, get it done.
I don't know if it's better, but you get it.
I guess you can always
get to the point.
Spend more time to.
That's the problem,
it, right?
and that was the problem with All Happening Now was the fact that I spent so long working on ideas, trying to get these understanding of technique in how I'm chopping up drums and air. I think also like. When you're hanging, like for me it was two periods. Like Masquerades and Silhouettes, I was just more by myself all the time.
Yeah,
Super
you can
T
see
would come
you're
around.
very much in your head. The album feels like you're
I'm
peeking
by
inside
myself
Lewis's head
a lot of the time, all the time.
Yeah.
Even though I had friends, I would spend to do. This is my own shit. All Happening Now was different.
You have a lot more collabs in that
because
album.
People were coming over wanting to record raps all the time, so I wasn't allowed the free space, the free mind space in the same way where I'm just there for days on end by myself thinking. It would always be a rapper coming over.
How did you meet these people?
Record. A
a
lot of it is naturally. So the main rappers like Super T, I'd met in Deal Real Records. I used to go to Deal Real. We met, I think, when it was back in Notting Hill Gate in Holland Park. When I used to go to Holland Park, I think. And we had a freestyle, and T and MK were like best friends at one point, and I used to go around MK's in Cricklewood, and I used to live in Acton at that point, so it literally was a bus ride.
Yeah.
And T was living in Kilburn and I'm in Acton. So we met in the West End or in Holland Park and and T used to come. Was one of the first rappers that started doing other stuff with, even though there was a few rappers before T that I was kind of doing, but he got to be at the right time where I wasn't working with anyone else at that point. And I was just and I just got my Lewis Parker deal. He knew I think I had the 2 records out maybe at that point when I met T. I think I had the B-Boy Antics out and Rise.
Yeah.
So me and T got cool. And it was a kind of point in time where I weren't really working with any other MC. So we got pretty cool around that time and then Joe was doing stuff, and that's how the 98 series stuff got. I bumped into Lasala Dolo, El Dolo, who was the co-producer of Champions of Nature.
Yeah. Is that how you met Jehst?
No, actually. But through Lasala I met, that's how Apollo and Profound came into my cypher through Lasala, through El Dolo. They were both South London MCs. Dolo has been in South London for however long at that point, and he was already doing demos with them. I met Dolo in a laundrette. He had recognised me from... No, he'd recognised... My friend was in the laundrette. I was in the laundrette. Matt Stevens was in the laundrette. Dolo was reading the magazine that had me on the cover. And Matt was like, oh, that's my mate. And then he literally was around the corner. then he's come over and I've met Lasala, and Lasala wasn't, you know, like doing the same shit, but I think he was a tad bit better than me at that point. Like he was older than me and he had more knowledge than me. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of became like, for me, I was definitely, and I met Ben Grimm, who knew through Lasala.
Right.
Those two, they were
and then
like slightly older than me.
The secret was revealed years later.
Yeah. So Lasala, in a lot of ways, if there's anyone who has been a mentor to me in terms of SP and learning, he was probably the biggest one. He had ideas and techniques, which definitely I understood, and you know, it was never a thing with Lasala where he would show you anything, but if you were around him, you would pick up. You would pick up.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's how with Jehst. I met Jehst first at Freestyle in Old Street. Yeah,
right here.
I used to live in White. This was all when I was living in Whitechapel. So
I was going to say, like, all happening now.
All happening now is what is around here.
You refer to Whitechapel a bunch of times.
I literally, you know, where Turner Street, where the behind
was just around here as well, then, or
no? But he used to come around here. Everyone was coming around here.
So there was a hip hop scene at Old Street. Like,
kind of.
I think of Boston, you know.
I wouldn't necessarily it was a hip hop scene, but there used to be a lot of little things going on.
Right.
Little nights, little events around this.
What year is this? That's like late 90s or
late night, late 90s into the 2000s. So I met Jehst around 2009, and I mean 1999, 2000. Yeah. Right.
And then you guys did communications.
I met him at a Freestyle. I thought he was really dope. I remember how it was the Freestyle was, to me, it was the epitome of who Jehst is, how I first met him. It was literally, he was a young little Caucasian white boy, right? And you got the MCs, you know, back then in the 90s, even though it started to change towards the mid 90s, white people weren't as accepted doing hip hop. Especially in, like, it wasn't as many, and it wasn't as normified. It just wasn't, especially white rappers. Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah, you would have a few of them, but most of them weren't that amazing. Yeah, and usually people didn't take them seriously. So this skinny little white kid, I remember everyone looking at like, what the fuck is this guy? I remember Skinny was there. A few other guys was there. Like I think some of the Mud Fam guys was there. And no, we didn't know. We'd never heard him before. So everyone's thinking, what the? And he got on the mic and just smashed. I just remember it's like everyone was like, oh shit, this guy's like one of them. It was one of them moments. Like he's really dope. So I always gave it to him for because you know I remember people wasn't thinking that you was gonna be nice like that. You know what I mean?
And then you had them on It's All Happening Now. You did communications together, right?
Yeah, we did a lot of records, bro. We did a lot of records. You
produced for him as well, right?
Yeah, I produced for him. We did, but it just for me back then I wasn't really thinking about things necessarily in this. You just would do records. Yeah. And that definitely changed how I did approach it, because people would take the piss sometimes and just turn up at your crib at like 8, 9 in the evening or whatever, unprepared, like haven't called, and I've always got a beat on the go. Especially back then, there was always something on the sampler. Right. So most likely, if you go around to Lewis's and you got a spliff or two, you're going to be able to record a joint. So that was happening to me like weekly, every other couple of days. I'd get someone coming round, and you know, a lot of shit would get recorded just like in that fashion where it wasn't really thought about. So then, when we started to actually think, let's put out these records, yeah, it kind of changed because then we were like, all right, we're gonna make these tunes and that tune.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess for all like for all happening now, a lot of songs like the songs Give It Here was actually recorded for All Happening Now. That was on Jehst's album. That was actually for All Happening Now. It just didn't make it because of sample.
It's a great song.
It didn't make it because of sample clearance. In fact, it's actually the same.
That's the one with Kalashnikov, right?
Yeah, that was actually meant for All Happening. That was recorded for All Happening Now.
Oh man, it's probably my favorite song from that album. So there you have it.
Yeah, it was for All Happening Now, that song. But that was one Jehst really wanted. So he was like, "Can I please get that?"
Yeah, it's a great
for
fucking
for
tune.
that album.
Can I ask you about communications? Because I think this is a very good segue into the whole AI thing I wanted to pick your brains on, right? So in that particular song, I've got the lyrics here. You say, become one with the air, instead one with the computer, where the digital monster inevitably controls our future. And then Jehst later on says, we live our lives between screens, right? And that was recorded, it sounds like it was 22 years.
Yes.
20,
That's
more
like
than
2002. So yeah, like
23 years ago.
Yeah, 23 years ago.
But it feels like you literally predicted the world that we live in now, right? At the time you listened to Communications and you almost felt like it's some kind of crazy dystopian future. But like I'm listening to it today, I'm like, holy shit, like you called it, right? So when you wrote it, did you already sense that technology essentially would dominate our creative lives?
I guess so.
And looking at AI now, do you feel like the digital monster that you were referring to has arrived?
Yes, I think it's been arrived, bro. It's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it was sort of like, I guess I could already see that even with what the technology was then, although it might look a bit like primitive to what we're using now, but already then I was like, yeah, we're going in a direction which is, I don't necessarily think is the right direction for us. I think we need to return much more to
a more tactile way of doing things.
Yeah, tactile way to nature, to technology is great and all, and we can't not deny the benefits and the communicative benefits and the ease of access and all of this it gives us. But we also have to think about what it is actually not doing for us, and what it's taken away from our everyday, our existence here on this planet.
Well, how do you see it then? Do you see it? I always wondered, like, do you see AI as a shortcut and it actually is taking away something, or do you see it more as a force multiplier? So people who are already creative can be. Right.
I'm definitely used AI in.
Never thought you'd say that. But
in music production already, and it's.
How are you using it then? Because
I've not used it. I've not used it for helping me in terms of it making music.
Right.
But the stem separation technology is invaluable. So, even though I'm gotten much more into playing music these days, if I now go to sample something from a record, it's a whole new ball game when you're thinking about what AI could do. Like, for me, it's sort of like that is mind blowing. I still can't believe it. I think back to when before this it was possible, or back to the 90s or when I was young, and think, what? They now can actually just take the drums off the record?
Yeah, isn't that crazy, right?
Separate the bass. Like, bro, I spent hours, days, trying to chop around, do the start point just a little bit in to try to, all right, how do I chop around this kick and still have the start point and put this extra loop, stretch it longer, doing stuff like extra EQs where you're filtering out the bass and then trying to put the mid highs back in and all of this. It's like, the amount of crazy. I would spend hours sitting there trying to get removed, like just with EQ, like on certain samplers, you can go through the point. So on your chop, you go through on the just the initial start of the chop where the kick is. Just go in and try to EQ out just the kick drum, but still leave the rest intact, so you're not messing up the rest of the frequency. But when that kick, the main punch of the kick hits, it's not too powerful, so you can actually place your other kick drum under it without them colliding. Yeah. All of this stuff I would do.
Yeah.
Bro. Do you know, like now you don't have to do any of that. You can just take the drums off of the record.
Yeah.
You can just remove the bass line. Like all of that technique that I was talking about in the 90s was all like, all right, how are we going to get that bass line? Right, let's use put the filter on it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you don't have, I mean, you can use
so
the filter just,
thing, right?
you can use the filter just to enhance the sound, like enhance the actual bass sound. Now you don't have to sit there and worry about all these other colliding frequencies. It's an amazing, for that kind of production, it's amazing. I couldn't go backwards.
Yeah, but how do you feel about, music which is completely AI generated? So you said obviously because you're seeing this now. So
it's like this. That's where we're now going to be into competition. So now we've got to actual real people have got to compete against AI. I don't think it's got to the level where it's anywhere good enough to actually take over real music, but I think it's already earned its place as meme, as something quick, something accessible. And I think if you look at it like this is the replacement for you having to use someone else's music for your meme or your short video. You could have whatever you want.
Yeah.
You could like, oh yeah, I like the sound of that, but I want to have my own lyrics on that's singing about specifically this subject that I've just posted about. And you can have an AI make it for you in less than a minute.
But man, they're bands like what is it? I
have seen that they're getting numbers. They're doing numbers on Spotify.
It's crazy. Yeah, on Spotify there was one.
I still feel like they sound very genetic.
They sound incredibly generic, 100%. But also there's one that I stumbled upon the other day called Tingle, I think, or something like that, which was, I think you might like some of it, or like a song or two, because it's sort of very easy listening, jazz.
I think they could do it. I'm sure AI can make music that I'm like, this is great, this is dope music, this is great.
21 albums all published this year.
Yeah, I'm sure they can do it.
But and then they're getting, I think they were getting like that,
it's a lot of music that we consider good or is, it can be calculated in numbers. And I think especially when we look at what we've already become accustomed to hearing from actual people, is so electronic and processed and controlled electronically already, synthesized already, that we're completely ready for computer generated music because our minds are already there. I still haven't heard it replace actual proper music though.
Yeah.
This is where I would like to actually okay, you could do something that's cool and you could do something that I think most people will like, and you'll do something that I think I can even like, or you can be, but can it be autonomous enough to go away and really make amazing music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard Rick Rubin talk about it. Someone asked him what he thought about it, and he said something which was quite interesting, and I wonder what do you think of it. He was saying how the main thing for him when it comes to arts, music being an art, is your point of view, the point of view of the artist, right? And he was saying, as far as I can tell, AI doesn't have a
point. It doesn't have a standpoint. That's why it sounds so generic. That's why it sounds soulless. It doesn't have something to get across. It is just mimicking what we have fed it. Right? At this point, then that's what it sounds like to me. It's amazing that we've managed to make algorithms that can mimic ourselves. So this even when I listen to these YouTube and just the voices, the narrator, the narration voices, I think that's amazing that we can do that.
Yeah.
That we can imitate someone's voice. Or
have you seen? There's a video I watched of Justin Bieber, out of all people, with a 12-piece orchestra, and he's literally humming whatever comes to his mind.
Yeah.
And they would basically play whatever he's humming, and then he composed a whole song like this. But I kind of feel like you can probably get to a place with AI where with natural language, you can either hum or you can type, and then
it can do that. And that's what I was thinking. I'm like, when is it? I haven't experimented so much with some of that sort of Sonio and these kind of things where I know you can put prompts or give it even other music, and it will then add on to the music or relate to your prompt. So if I say give me a dramatic melody in C minor, it's, what will it come with? With a on a Shakiro flute or something, like, how's it, like, is it gonna give me something that I'm gonna be blown away by? That is really always, and I think we're at a point where I think that is going to be very close. So it's going to be competition for us, and is it going to be to a point where it's literally like, there's no difference. I can't tell the difference. And if it gets to a point where the AI can do equally what Lewis Parker can do with all of my samplers and techniques I've learned and human emotion and understanding, if the machine can get to that same place without any intervention or without any prompts,
doesn't it?
There's going to be a point, if it can, there will be a point where it will be pointless for us to be doing what we're doing. And when we have achieved that, what is next for us? If we achieve a machine that can basically do all of our functions and everything we do better than us? Where are we going with that?
Dude, the irony is that everyone was saying that once we get to this place where machines, whether it's AI and robots, or maybe the two combined, can take care of all our basic needs, food, shelter, etc., we would basically dedicate our lives in pursuit of arts, right? And now we're seeing art kind of being taken away from us.
So exactly. So how are we going? What would be the point in spending all of your time pursuing something like trying to make beats or trying to learn to play the guitar or piano or anything, if a machine could play 1,000,000 times better than you, no matter how many hours you practice?
Isn't this like really annoying? Like you spent 30 odd years perfecting the craft, and then based on all your learnings as well, because these machines are trained on like probably your music as well.
On your own, on what? Yeah.
That's I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if it will make me give up, but I haven't heard it yet. So if I hear something where I'm still at a point where you've got a long way to go, AI, before you catch up actually making good music that actually gives you a proper pass on. All of your stuff sound mad tinny. It all sounds like it's got artifacts around it. It all sounds like it's not actually really acoustic. Like, to achieve that is quite a feat, right? Because it's going to have to actually, if you really listen to a lot of those bands, some of it isn't bad, but you start breaking down bits and you're like, those drums don't actually sound like real drums. That piano doesn't actually sound like a real piano. It sounds like a synthesizer, not even a great synthesizer with a good tone.
Yeah. But most people wouldn't be able to say, right? Like, I think you've got to train
all of those, so that's what I'm saying. All of those minor details for me at this point keep it from being a threat or anything I'm worried about, because I'm like, on any real test you sound fucking shit, AI, but it's still pretty impressive that you can at this point reach those feats. And for someone who can now use those bits, so maybe you can come up with an idea, and a human can now take that and add on to it or polish it in a way which is actually now presentable and on the level of good music. But at this point, I don't think it is. It's the same way with the movie stuff it does. Yeah. Some of it's passable to a certain degree, but you wouldn't actually put any of it and compare it to an actually good movie, like a classic, like a well-filmed, well-acted movie, and say this is on the same level as it. It's just not.
But you're more on the side of embracing it and blending it into your craft.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem with us, is we can't, I know for me, if you taste something that's good, you can't go untaste it. You can't go back.
I hear you. Yeah.
We can't get rid of it now.
Yeah.
And maybe we're I do think, all you have to do is just look at the basic science fiction movies, Terminator and thing, bruv. Like, why would you make, like, are we basically inventing Skynet, basically? Like,
well, yeah.
I
don't know, man. Like, I kind of have been down the rabbit hole a lot, and
because I think when you look at those, what's it that those robotics, the guy, what's it that robotic? I forget the name
Boston
of the
Robotics.
Boston Robotics. Yeah. That shit is scary as hell.
Yeah, you've seen the Black Mirror episode where they have very similar.
Oh yeah. That shit is scary. That's very scary, bro. Because I'm like, okay, if you put some of these sophisticated AI minds in those,
indestructible bodies.
Yeah, indestructible bodies that we wouldn't have any kind of chance trying to defend ourselves against.
No. Well, which is why I guess the big concern that most people kind of worrying about this.
Yeah, and there's already been a few things where they've had to shut down a few systems because they say, one guy said, I heard about, it was a year and a half ago, we thought it maybe sort of came like sentient or something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like, how do you know when something's sentient or not?
Yeah, well,
and we don't even know.
Exists, so, yeah.
And I remember as that came out, so they shut the system down because they thought it reached some kind of set or a point where they're like, no, this is beyond what is in our control or our realm. Like,
is this something you worry about? Do you think about this, or do you try to be like, this is outside of my control? And
yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff like that I'm like, what are you going to do? Worry all day? I mean, we got the Free Eye Atlas, all of this kind of stuff. I'm like, what are you going to do? Worry about this stuff, or just take it in your stride? You can just take it in your stride because you can't worry. But I do think, are we just being dumb altogether? Like having, but it's not really in everyday people's. It's not about everyday people. It's about corporations.
Yeah.
Everything we do in this world is just about a small amount of people in these massive corporations going, how can we make the maximum profit?
Yeah.
And what is going to be the next maximum profit for the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years?
Well, this is the messed up thing, right? That whatever it's, we're trying to optimize for individuals' profit, the corporations' profits and gains. And in that pursuit, we essentially are reducing the quality of life that we're likely to experience in the future, arguably. I mean, let's see, we can go either way, right?
Well, I think it feels like that at the moment. It definitely in the UK, it feels like things have become noticeably more expensive in a very short time.
You're feeling that, right?
I feel like that. Yeah. I feel like it's noticeably more like you can literally since the COVID, feels like the inflation, the general change. It's like weird. It feels like things are changing rapidly.
Yeah, it's sped up, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, we are almost out of time. I wanted to ask you one more it's a big topic, but and this kind of goes back to your return from the US. You come back at the point, I presume it's right about the point where like grime and drill were kind of exploding. I always wondered, because again, you're like very purist.
It never sat with me, bro. I definitely recognize certain guys' talents, and if I hear a dope MC, I can recognize a dope MC, and be like, yeah, they can rap good, and they, but I can't really get with that kind of beat, bro. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like certain ideas can, but certain sounds don't gel for me. Grime was very hard for me more than the drill. Okay. At least the drill kind of.
Is it the BPM? What is the
grime? Yeah, it was the BPM and also the actual pattern. It just seemed so random. I remember the first time I'd come back, and I was in the States for quite a while, and I went to some club, and they were playing. I think it was the Lethal Bizzle. It was when that was like the POW.
Yeah.
It was when that around them times. I didn't get it, bro.
Yeah, I still don't, to be honest.
I remember and it was like real and it just seemed like this. Do you know what didn't get me? It was like hip hop has always had the element of funkiness, bouncing, like something that make you want to tap your feet. Grime just seemed like the complete opposite of that. It seemed more akin with something like punk music or something like that, like in the terms of how that, like the randomness of the beat was to me and the hecticness of the music. It didn't seem funky. It didn't seem like saying I want to just move to like that. It was like the opposite. It almost seemed jarring in that way, where it's like too aggressive, too attack, not enough funk. Like, where's the funk? And the I think for me, the lack of that idea that I came up on, that it was all about the breaks. And that was literally it. It's all about those old breaks from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That's what's the sound, right?
Yeah. Well,
hip hop moved so far away from that understanding that it was like you just need an 808 now and some random synthesized sounds, and that's it.
Who do you rate as an MC though? Huh? You said there's some good MCs.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good. I think there's a lot of good MCs. I think Giggs is a dope MC.
Yeah.
I think Skepta's a dope MC. I think they're
Yeah.
I think they're all good MC. I'm
But it's not your music.
It's not my music though. I'd love to let me work with some of those guys.
Would you? I was going to say, because commercially it's done way better than
I'd love to. I'd love to.
But doing more of your type beats.
But yeah, doing actual, because I've in the last couple of months, I think, or throughout the summer, there was a whole thing started by Skepta, which was this going at the US, and they had this US UK rap battle. It didn't get as big as it looked like it might do for a while, but they were this guy called Joyner Lucas from the US. They were going back and forth at it. And it was interesting to me with some of the rhetoric that was coming out was, from some of these guys, it's like, I don't think they either don't want to recognize that there was hip hop, like actual hip hop in the 90s in the UK with a scene and guys really doing hip hop, like, and we're still here.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the rhetoric that I hear from the younger guys who are big with the rap, the grime drill rap now, they kind of talk like
it's like a different thing, right?
It's like, yeah, or rap started in the UK from Dizzy Rascal and Soul Solid and that those times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like from the grime era or from the garage era, and they might big up someone like Rodney P.
Yeah.
But they do this thing. It's like, they were all trying to sound American. And I know, we're all trying to sound American. We're all just trying to bite American rap and just what, and you can write off like a whole actual period of UK hip hop music, which I think was actually the most sincere UK hip hop music from throughout the 90s into the mid 2000s, into the 2000s.
Yeah.
That was the most sincere, because the difference was even though I think the best period best is, how you interpret it, or was the 80s with the guys I was talking about earlier, but it was a completely different thing. They were more trying to do their version directly of what the US was doing in the 80s, where in the 90s it was more a slow embrace, but it was a real embrace of the UK scene and the UK culture and the UK style, but also bringing, the actual real elements of hip hop in. And the guys that, the producers that I was around and the ideas that we had were from the original essence of hip hop, not like a mix match, or we're not doing hip hop and we're going to say it's something else. We really was doing hip hop from the essence, like in all its forms.
Yeah.
And that's what we were about. And I think that's got lost, sort of like this, like hip hop being sort of sacred almost in that way.
Yeah.
Listen, all of these.
It has been lost, but I'm glad that people like you, exist and you're still pushing it, and you've inspired certainly me, but I'm sure hundreds and thousands.
Yeah, I know there's and the people I know from around the world, or I see on. That's one thing about the internet, is that it gives me content. And people reach out from all over the globe, bro, who've got into my music, and to say, you know, I'm the reason they started making beats, or I'm one of the guys that's really inspired them, or something like. So it's like, you know, I know what I've did in my career has not been in vain, and I'm still putting out music, and I'm still having ideas like the drum kits and all of these kind of things, which I'm still like, yo, I'm still loving what I'm doing. And for me, I've never been so confident in my own musical ability than I am now.
What's the best way for people to follow you? We need to wrap up, unfortunately, but what is the best way for people to...
Instagram
is, which is how we connected.
Yeah, Lou Ultra.
And
I'm pretty bad with the internet. I think I was better at one point in the last year or so. I've not really been giving a fuck about the internet. I'll go on there when I go on there.
Well, I'm glad you replied to my message and we got the chance to sit down and talk, man.
Yeah.
And again, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you again. Like, I never thought 25 years picking up your CD version, have the chance to sit down and talk to you.
No problem. Dimitar. My brother, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for asking me down, man.
Yeah. We have to do it again. I had like so many more things that I wanted to chat to you about, but we're out of time, unfortunately. But we'll do it again, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks again.
Peace.